This past Sunday, Brent did the second week of the Healthy Relationships Toolkit message, and he's talking about what it means to be peace-loving, and he spent a good chunk of time talking about anger. So I wrote a couple things down of things that he said, my paraphrasing, but some highlights. And so here's the first one. One of the threats to us being peace-loving is anger. Anger is a pride response to us not getting our way. Hurt people hurt people. And I think we've all heard that by now, and we believe it. Behind anger is either hurt, frustration, or fear. And that line jumped out at me, and so we're going to come back to that. We're going to dive deeper into that. But here were some of the notes that I took as I was listening to the sermon. My struggle with anger, and I'll pause here. I am not somebody who lashes out or yells, but when there's those certain triggers, I can feel it inside of me. And there's like an impatience and an intolerance, and it's selfishness, right? It's like I wanted my way, maybe because I'm afraid that if I don't have control, I don't know what's going to happen. I think for me it is largely fear-based. Hey, Paul. Help. Oh yeah, I think he sees it. I probably just did something stupid. I don't know. Oh, I don't need you. I don't need you, Paul. Okay, so is that the first one? Oh, we went a few. Here we are. And so that's why I can say my struggle with anger, because that's just true. I got it figured out. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. You're the best. Tell them that you were the hero. Because you are. My struggle with anger may be because I've forgotten who God is. And we can know who God is, but maybe not presently realize who God is in individual circumstances. So he's the righteous judge. He's the one who established morality. He's the one who sustains those things. I don't need to decide for people what's right and wrong, but I have a very black and white way of thinking. My struggle with anger may be because I've forgotten who I am. I'm saved by grace. My righteous status has zero to do with what I've done. Doesn't matter what skills or talents or how likable I may be, my righteousness comes from God. I'm saved by grace alone. Maybe I struggle with anger because I've forgotten who the other person is, the offender, the one who made me mad. They forced me into it, which isn't true, we know. That person's made in the image of God. That person is loved by God, equal to me in value, even though what I say, what I think, how I act might communicate that person's desires are not as important as mine. That person is someone I am called to value above myself. Oh. No. It doesn't help that I'm literally under the TV. Anything happening out there, gals? No. It's delayed, so now when it catches up, it's going to be 8 slides ahead. So there's a passage, Philippians 2. I agree, technology. You love it when you love it, and you don't when you don't. Philippians 2, 3 through 4 says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves." So we're equal in value, but our perspective is that we are to treat them as if they are more important, that they are better than us. And that is just continuing to blow my mind. Not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. So Brent Pastor Brent shared with us that his therapist is the one who dropped this knowledge bomb of beneath anger is either hurt, frustration, or fear. I'm going to try this again. Please, Lord Jesus. When you're a worship leader, you just sing anything. Okay. Honestly, it's probably a building problem because we have Wi-Fi issues here quite often. So, beneath anger is either hurt, frustration, or fear. And the reason why this jumped out at me is because for the last several months, I've been primarily discerning in myself, but you can see in others as well, that the way we are choosing to display our emotion. So for instance, I'm angry, and so I'm acting all flustered, and I'm rushing around the house and maybe slamming a door, or maybe I'm raising my voice. That is not the emotion that is actually at the root. And like I said, for me, fear is often there. Another common one for me would be feeling like overwhelmed, like I can't keep up with my life. There's so many things to do. I'm feeling overwhelmed. And now it's going to ooze out in like frustration. And so what I love about this line is it acknowledges that very often what we present as is not actually how we feel. And I think that's important because in our relationships, we don't often, even before our relationships, with ourselves, we don't often look deeper to see what's really underneath. And if we can't do that, we can't really learn enough about ourselves to maybe communicate to our spouse or to communicate to other people in our family what's really going on. So I have this thought, and this is just me making stuff up. Classic ringtone, I love it. So I have this, I'll call it a theory. This is not, from James 3:14. We have surface emotions. You could even say surface actions as well, or hidden emotions. And I'm going to come over here and try this again. I'm not giving up hope. Jesus, take the wheel. Okay, we're going to keep going. Oh, wait, that's the end. Don't look. Just kidding. Oh, praise Jesus. Okay. All right, so surface emotions. I just wrote this stuff up. You're not going to find it anywhere, but somebody else might have said it better. Surface emotions are emotions you are more willing to display because you believe they make you less vulnerable. Or to put a different way, you believe that you're stronger when you display these emotions. Even though you know maybe they're not godly, but you feel like you have more control in these emotions. So a couple examples: anger, apathy. Think about this. Apathy. You don't care. You just act like nothing touches you. But you're not processing anything. And then you feel like you're drowning, and it's because you pretended you were apathetic, but really maybe, if I connect this, maybe you're struggling with shame. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you're feeling helpless. You're sad. Maybe you're grieving some kind of loss. And so hidden emotions are emotions that you or maybe others perceive as weak or unsafe to express. Sadness, shame, helplessness. These emotions might be perceived as more messy. You might be seen as needy. And it's like, okay, we're willing to walk alongside somebody with these messier emotions for a while, but think about the person that like season after season, year after year, they continue to manifest some of these other, these harder emotions. We're not always equipped or willing to go there because it's hard and it's messy. But I truly believe that if we can practice either catching ourselves before we lash out in some kind of way, or maybe we've already lashed out. But if we can decide to say, whoa, what was that? What do I genuinely think that was really about? And then how can I go back, and if there's an opportunity to reconcile with that person? If it's our spouse, it's an incredible opportunity to say, hey, this is how I acted. This is what you saw. This is what's going on inside of me. The why. It's not an excuse, but it is a why. This thing's driving me crazy. And I just want you to know that that's what I'm working on, and that the way I presented to you was not supposed to harm you or attack you. That was not my intention. I'm just struggling with these things. Now they can have greater compassion. Now they can maybe build you up in a way that they didn't know you needed building up. And I think as women, and I'm going to go the next step and say women in the church, it is so classic for us to be like, we've got it all together. Everything's fine. The mom who makes it look the easiest is the one who's rocking it the hardest. The grandma who is never overwhelmed or has the perfect vacation and grandkid time balance, is the one who's doing the best. And we have all of these expectations of how we're supposed to present, but we don't let people in. And we don't even let ourselves in. I don't know. I think I probably live in my head more than the average person, so maybe this doesn't resonate. Or maybe it does. They say that men pretty much only have one thing on their brain, sometimes nothing, which I still can't even understand. Like they'll say, there's nothing going on. I'm not thinking anything. And they mean it. We can't even fathom that. Because right now I just thought of 6 things. Oh, there's 13 more. And I haven't even gone to the bathroom, and it's been 3 hours because I've just been doing all the things that I'm thinking of. But anyway, I think I'm jumping the gun on my own stuff, so I'm just going to push next. No. Please. I think it's story time anyway. I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to give you an example. And I had a lot to choose from, trust me. This one's about my dad. It's about me and my dad. I was about to lead worship for an event at their church, and there were like other denominational leaders and pastors that were beginning to come into the room because the event was going to start. I'm kind of doing a sound check, prepping myself, and my dad yells across the room, "Hey babe," because he calls all of us babe, all his gals. "Hey babe, are you gonna do any of the songs that you've written today or tonight?" And instantly I'm feeling like threatened and embarrassed. And I'll explain more why later. But I said, absolutely not. Just like that, probably. Like the sass was there. The anger, you could sniff it out, even though I wasn't like, absolutely not. The anger was there. This was literally maybe 8 or 9 months ago. And I noted at the time that was not a very reasonable response. He didn't give me a hard time for it, but it's probably because we're in a room with a lot of people. Pretty dysfunctional. And anyway, so probably prayed that the Lord would forgive me before I led worship, because that's always a good thing to do. And then afterwards, I just really, while I was driving home, I'm like, God, why? Why did that hit me like it did? And there's no way I could give you all of the layers of a relationship. But what I will say is my dad, who loves me very much and has always seen a lot of potential in me, whether it was sports related or music or whatever, has pushed me very hard. And he spent more time talking about the ways that I could improve than the ways that I was doing well. And he's really, he's gotten a lot better with that. And I've also gotten healthier. But there have also been times when it's like all he wants to talk about are these accomplishments rather than just me as a person. And what I know, for the most part, his heart is just to connect with me. He just wants to find the thing that I am interested in and passionate about, and he wants to lean into that, because we used to just connect about sports. And now he's not my coach anymore, and that's not really the dynamic anymore. So he's just trying to lean in, and he's also saying, I'm proud of my kid. And as a new parent, I can understand more now why you would want to take every opportunity to praise your kid, because they're awesome. But in that moment, I felt embarrassed because there's all these other people in the room, and I felt used, like I was a trophy, like my value really comes from what I can bring. And I continue to wrestle with that, and different seasons of my life, it'll flare up and die down. So I presented with the sass and the frustration and the anger and the resentment. I could go on. But those were the things that I was really feeling. And those are the reasons why I was feeling them. And I could even say his intentions were not bad at all. But this is just the way I processed it. And I'm going to be honest. I have not gone back to him and told him how all that unfolded for me. And he probably has no idea. And I was thinking of an example to share, and I thought of 3 other examples where I have, found reconciliation or had closure to that interaction. So darn it, now I have to go back and talk to him for the sake of integrity. And it's just hard because you know that you're going to hurt your parent and you don't want to. And you're not trying to leave them hurt. You're just trying to say, this is how I processed it. And please forgive me for the way that I acted. And what ways can we engage differently, in a more healthy way? So I will say, I think many of you are parents, probably grandparents in here. Just know that when your child or your grandchild brings something to you that may communicate something that you feel like you could have done better or where you messed up, unless they're just trying to be hurtful and you know it, they really are not trying to be hurtful. They're trying to let you in to a space where healing can take place. That rhymed. I didn't mean it. So I know it's hard to almost kind of like swallow that, maybe cry about it later, but stay present with your child because they really are just trying to connect. And anyway, that's a side note. So Ephesians 4:29 through 32 says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs. Did I literally skip? I think I skipped a thing. I skipped an important thing. Oh, it wasn't me. It was the technology. So here's what I want you to do. Please? Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I actually want you to get in your table groups. That's why we're set up this way. And I want you to just kind of bounce off of each other. What do you feel like are the emotions you kind of quickly go to that maybe feel safer, or maybe they're just more reactionary? And what are some of those emotions that are maybe underneath? I don't know, this is a complete experiment, but this is like my favorite thing to do ever. I love it. I love to hear the conversations, the laughing, no doubtably some crying happening in there. And I shared with this table last night, I shared a story that when I was practicing to share it, I spoke it something last night. When I was practicing, I wasn't like emotional about it, but in the moment, it almost took me back as I was telling this story, and I literally just wept last night in front of a lot of people, and they were a lot of people, meaning maybe 20. They were wonderful, they were great, but don't ever, if you cut off feeling something deeply, if you cut off maybe God trying to soften your heart or speaking to you in some way, I think it'd just get harder for us to hear him. It also could be harder for us to humble ourselves to just be broken and sad or whatever it might be in that moment. So that's what I'm telling myself after last night. Okay, thank you for doing that. I hope it was a good experience for you. And the hope is that some of you might already kind of think in this way, and some of you maybe not. But the hope is that maybe we can more quickly identify when there are reactions or even actions within us that aren't healthy or aren't godly or aren't fill in the blank, and we can go down to the root of those things, not only so that we can heal, but so that we can let people into our lives, like really in. Um, so here are some final thoughts for you. In a conflict, when we try to win, everyone loses. We already know that, right? And we don't have to seem like we're all together. We don't have to present in a way that's not authentic, because the more and more we do that, we might even convince ourselves that this is actually how we are, and then we just continue to build higher the dividing wall between us and other people. Second thing, an apology can deepen a relationship more than if a relationship never had a conflict. I think a lot of times our goal is peacekeeping and is just being agreeable and going with the flow. And there are obviously times to just submit in that way. I used the S word. I just got nervous that I said that on the live stream. We're talking about submit here. But I remember specifically, like, I definitely have been somebody who can, when I feel like I'm cornered, triggered, maybe it's my fear of failure or not being seen or being overwhelmed, it can come out in ways that I say things that I have to apologize for because they weren't fair, they weren't kind. And I learned that from a very young age, that there were many times when I'd have to go specifically apologize to my mother. And my mother every morning would act like nothing happened. Didn't matter what happened the day before, she would act like nothing happened. And I learned that I really did not like apologizing. It was really hard for me. And in choosing to lower myself and do it anyway, not only did it change my heart, but it just overall caused me to say things less that were hurtful. And so I am convinced that an apology can deepen a relationship more than if there was never even a conflict in the first place, because you're deepening in a place where maybe that opportunity wasn't there before. Not that we want to create opportunities to apologize. Knowing ourselves allows us to better connect with others. I've already said that. I've also already kind of said this. Healing and restoration of yourself and relationships can only take place when we're honest with God, ourselves, and others. Peace with others is God's will. Everybody say a quick prayer. See, it got caught. You can see it. It's stuck. Now I'm going to read that verse that I tried to read to you like 18 minutes ago. Ephesians 4:29-32 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." Verse 30. Verse 30 says, "And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice." Verse 32 says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you." So I don't know if this would be helpful to anybody, but I actually wrote a slide that we'll never see. And it says, "Take home exercise." Doesn't that sound appealing? And I just wrote down, if you've responded to a conflict in a less than godly way, and then I just list some steps. And so if anybody wants that, maybe reach out, but just a way for us to continue to practice catching something quickly. We want to have soft hearts. We want to be sensitive to what the Spirit's doing. And I think the quicker we can just identify and then yield to the Lord, this was not the Jesus way, and then try to reconcile with the people around us, I think the healthier we will be, the healthier our relationships will be, and we will be positioning ourselves for God to use us and to work in and through us. Somebody, I don't remember who it was, but somebody taught me at some point that Dexter, my husband, is God's son. So he's all the other things I listed before. He's a child of God. He's equal with me in value. I'm supposed to prefer him over myself. But Dexter is God's son. And when you love and fear the Lord, you should hesitate before you harm God's child. And so out of your love and fear of the Lord, you might do something that your flesh doesn't want to do, like apologize or, whatever that might look like. But I think that's a great point. Thank you for saying that, because when we're obeying, when we're honoring the person, whether it's the coworker or the spouse or whoever it is, we're honoring God, we're obeying God. It's beautiful. It's worship, which goes way beyond a song. Thank you for letting me speak here today. I love you all. And I got to nerd out on some things that I think about a lot.